In 1177 BC, every major civilization on Earth disappeared. Not slowly, not peacefully. Within 100 years, hundreds of cities were burning. Entire languages went extinct. 90% of the population in some regions, gone. And here's what keeps historians awake at night. We still have no idea what caused it. This is the story of the day the world ended. Let me take you back 3,200 years. The year is 1300 BC, the Bronze Age, and the world, it looks a lot like ours. You've got Egypt, the superpower. Ramesses II is building monuments that still stand today. The Hittites control modern Turkey with armies 50,000 strong. The Greeks are constructing palaces out of limestone blocks so massive that later generations thought giants built them. But here's what's really wild. These civilizations are connected. Kings write letters to each other like emails, real letters, real requests. One says, "To the king of Egypt, my brother, send gold. Send it quickly because I'm building a palace and I need it now." Tin travels 3,000 miles from Afghanistan to the Mediterranean. Copper comes from Cyprus. Grain from Egypt feeds Greece. Wine from Greece gets drunk in Egypt. This interconnected economy is feeding more people than ever before in human history. Population is booming, literacy is spreading, technology is advancing. And the people living in this world? They feel exactly what we feel when we look at our civilization. This will last forever. It lasted 50 more years.
Okay, pause for a second. I need you to understand something. The world I just described, that wasn't primitive. That wasn't simple. These people had running water, international diplomacy, professional armies, a global economy. And it all vanished. Here's how it started. The Egyptians kept records of everything, every trade deal, every diplomatic letter, every grain shipment. Around 1200 BC, something strange starts appearing in these records. The kingdoms to the north stop responding. At first, it's just one or two. Maybe they're busy. Maybe the messenger died. It happens. But then, more kingdoms go silent. Then more. Then more. The Egyptians keep sending letters. No response. It's like that friend who suddenly stops texting back, except this friend was an entire civilization. Then they receive this.
"The enemy ships are already here. They have set fire to my towns. All my troops are away. All my ships haven't returned. The country is abandoned. There are 7 enemy ships. If more come, let me know so I can decide what to do." This was written by the king of Ugarit, a rich port city in modern Syria. Archaeologists found this tablet still in the oven, still drying. He never got to finish baking it. Whatever he was writing about got there first. Within decades, Ugarit destroyed. The Hittite Empire gone. Mycenaean Greece collapsed. Dozens of major cities burning. You can see it in the dirt. Layers of ash, destruction layers. Then, nothing. Centuries of nothing. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so some ancient cities got destroyed. That happened all the time, right? Wrong. This wasn't a war. This wasn't one invasion. This was every major power in the known world falling simultaneously. In human history, that's only happened twice. This was the first time. So who did this? The Egyptians have a name for what's coming. They call them the peoples of the sea. But here's the thing, sea peoples isn't really a name. It's more like those boat people who showed up and destroyed everything. The Egyptians list their tribes.
The Peliset, the Sheridan, the Denyen, the Sheklish. Where did they come from? Nobody knows. Some historians think they're from the Aegean Islands. Some think Anatolia. Some think they're from places we haven't even identified yet. But Ramesses III, Egypt's pharaoh, he left us this inscription. The foreign countries made a conspiracy in their islands. All at once the lands were on the move, scattered in war. No country could stand before their arms. End quote. Translation? Everyone's screwed. The Hittites, gone. Cyprus, destroyed. Syria, burning. Greece, collapsing. Egypt barely, and I mean barely, survived. Ramesses brags about his victory, claims he killed thousands, took prisoners, standard pharaoh stuff. But here's what he doesn't mention. Egypt was never the same. You know how you can win a fight but still end up in the hospital for 6 months? That was Egypt. But modern historians have started asking a different question. Hint of conspiracy. What if the Sea Peoples weren't the cause of the collapse? What if they were the result?
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Because we're about to talk about 3 things, 3 factors. Any one of them could destabilize a civilization. All 3 happened at once. Factor number 1. Between 1200 and 1100 BC, the Mediterranean experienced one of the worst droughts in human history. Crops failed, rivers dried up, entire regions became uninhabitable. Remember how I said the Bronze Age trade system was feeding more people than ever before? That's only good when the system is working. When the crops fail and the trade ships stop coming, and you've got 10 million people to feed with infrastructure built for 5 million. People don't just sit there and starve. They move, they raid, they take what they need to survive. Maybe the Sea Peoples weren't some organized army of conquest. Maybe they were refugees, desperate, starving, armed. That's factor 1. Factor 2. The island of Thera, modern Santorini, had one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history around this time. Tsunamis, ash clouds blocking the sun, entire naval fleets destroyed in harbor. And earthquakes hit the region. Multiple cities show signs of earthquake damage right before they were burned. Factor 2. Factor 3. And this is the one that terrifies me. The Bronze Age civilization had become so interconnected, so specialized, so dependent on its trade networks, that when it broke, it shattered. Think about it. Drought leads to famine. Famine leads to migration. Migration leads to raiding. Raiding disrupts trade. No trade means more famine. More famine means more raiding. Cities fall. Infrastructure crumbles. Knowledge is lost. One piece comes out. The whole thing comes down. So what happened at the end of the Bronze Age? Everything. All at once.
Now you might be thinking, okay, ancient history, sad, but what does this have to do with me? I'm glad you asked, because we're about to talk about us. But first, let me show you what happened after the collapse. Because the aftermath, that's the really scary part. Let's talk about what happened next. Because next lasted 400 years. Writing, forgotten in Greece for 4 centuries. International trade, gone. Population, crashed by 50 to 90% in most regions. Technology, lost. The Mycenaean Greeks had a written language called Linear B. After the collapse, nobody could read it anymore. It took until the 1950s for modern scholars to decipher it. Another example, the Hittites knew how to work iron, state secret, cutting-edge technology. That knowledge disappeared for generations. Later peoples would look at Bronze Age ruins, massive stone walls, sophisticated aqueducts, and they couldn't figure out how they were built. So they assumed gods did it, or giants. Because the idea that humans built these things, that seemed impossible. This wasn't a dark age. This was the dark age. The world didn't recover for centuries. Good news, though. Eventually, civilization did recover. New kingdoms arose, the Greeks reinvented writing, the Phoenicians spread across the Mediterranean. It only took 400 years of darkness, starvation, and cultural amnesia. So here's my question for you.
How confident are you that our world couldn't collapse? Because here's what I see. Bronze Age, trade routes spanning thousands of miles. Us, supply chains spanning the globe. Bronze Age, population growth beyond local sustainability. Us, 8 billion people dependent on industrial agriculture. Bronze Age, dependent on far-flung resources. Us, microchips made in one place, oil flowing through critical choke points. It's the same structure. In 2020, a virus disrupted the global supply chain for a few months. Toilet paper disappeared, computer chips became scarce, hospitals ran out of basic supplies. That was just a disruption, not a collapse. Our entire civilization runs on undersea internet cables that can be cut, GPS satellites that can fail, food systems with 3 days of buffer stock. And climate change? It's not coming. It's here. Droughts in the American West, crop failures, supply chain stress, food insecurity rising. The Bronze Age collapse started with a drought. The people of 1300 BC looked at their world and thought it was permanent. So do we. But there's a layer of ash in the ground that says otherwise. It says, this happened before. Look, I'm not saying the world is going to end tomorrow. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I'm not selling you bunkers. But I am saying this. We still don't know exactly what destroyed the Bronze Age. Maybe we never will. Was it climate change, invasion, systems collapse? Probably all of it. But we know this, a sophisticated, interconnected, powerful civilization, gone in a century. So the real question isn't what happened to them. The real question is, how many pieces can we lose before it all comes down? History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And right now, I'm hearing an echo.